Alright, Scrubs, it's time to listen up for a second on this whole G2 cancellation. It left too many loose ends. The pieces are scattered. We seem to have been cut off from any further story. No more graphic novels, no more books, and no more Journey to One. Bionicle is over again. But that doesn't mean we can't tie up the loose ends ourselves. Let's listen again to the legend of Bionicle. We're going to be connecting the joints. So let's start off with one of the most controversial endings in Bionicle lore ever. Journey to One's final fight. As the Toa finally defeated Umarak, Gally manages to escape the Shadow Realm, explaining the destiny of the Toa to go and defeat Makuta once and for all. As such, the Toa gather together and unite once and for all to banish Makuta back to the Shadow Realm, and that's it. The Toa sacrifice their bodies and are sent back to their stars, waiting for a time when the Okotans feed them again. What a lame ending, some people said. There's too much stuff left out in the open. No Makuta, no connection to Gen 2, it's so unfinished, and that was the worst ending ever. Fun fact still remains, the stars the Toa went back to are very similar to another set of stars of the time of old, the Toa Nuva stars from Mask of Light. As Gally looked upon the stars in the sky, she notices a Toa star being formed for Takanuva. But let's ignore that detail and look at the stars themselves. We have 6 stars here, formed in the shape of their island home, Motunui. Now flip the stars from Okoto that we saw in Journey to One, and we see that they take the shape of their island home. It was said by the villager in the first Bionicle episode for Gen 2, when the stars aligned, the Toa would supposedly come down to help them. But what is the shape of this aligning? We presumed it was a physical line. That could work, but it doesn't look that way up in the sky. You know why? Because when planets physically align in space, they don't look that way from the surface of our planet. Instead, we think of the aligning in our night sky when they make a perfect line or a shape. But the definition of this alignment is vague. A line can mean 2 things, to put in a straight line, or to take a position or support something. The former could make sense, but seeing how the Toa returned to their stars during the One, they're definitely aligned, in the shape of Okoto that is. So now we see that the stars for Motunui and Okoto hold the same properties of taking shape of their island home. But Chronicler, hold up a second. The Toa stars only appeared on the inside of the Motunui giant. Look at what happened with the Toa Metru and their stars. That is true, but don't forget that the stars for the island of Motunui were outside the Matoran universe. Literally, outside the surface of Aqua Magna. They still mysteriously took shape. How is this even possible? I have no idea. For this piece of lore seemed to have been barely touched upon by LEGO or Greg Farshtey. They seem to be mentioned a few times, but other than that, their origin is pretty mysterious. It almost seems supernatural. Unlike the Red Star though, these stars were never explained to be connected gravitationally to the Great Spirit robot. They seem to vanish from Bionicle lore, going into obscurity to the point where most of Gen 2 and Gen 1 fans forgot about them. But they still exist. And nothing contradicts them in the canon, especially since they appear in the books as well. So these Toa Nuva stars are just hanging around there in space, even after the destruction of Motunui itself, which is why I believe these stars are the true connection to Gen 1 and Gen 2. Because stars, my friends, change positions over the ages. They're not dormant. They move very slowly unless, of course, they're a planet. What were the Toa stars in G2? Planets, apparently, at least according to the prophecy of heroes. So these Toa descended from these stars and returned to them after they banished Makuta forever. What in the world are Okotans going to do this whole time while the Toa were away? We honestly don't know. The story ends with the banishment of Makuta, and therefore we think peace has come, now that the darkness of Umarak is destroyed. However, I believe the stars could have been elsewhere. Okoto itself looks like a planet or a moon, but don't think I'm going to argue that the Okotans are great beings. That could make sense, but at the same time, the Mask of Time seems to destroy this theory. The Vahi has said to have existed before Okoto even existed, according to Ikimu. The Toa were described as timeless heroes. The Toa themselves seem to have had a past they don't remember. All suggest that there was something before Okoto. I think Okoto itself isn't connected to Spirus Magna or Aqua Magna at all. Okoto is Takanuva's star in Mask of Light. Makes sense. If the 6 planets themselves are the Toa Nuva stars, and the 6 Toa from Gen 2 came from there, Okoto has to be the 7th planet. There's just no other explanation for this. We should also look into Okoto's history to support this. Okoto itself was created within several millennia ago, according to the Bionicle 2015 magazine excerpt. In Matoran lifetimes, that's not a very long time. Okoto has also shown signs of being a relatively new planet. It's covered in a body of water like Earth was. A good amount of the land mass is concentrated upon the land. It also has large amounts of volcanic activity. In short, Okoto looks like a relatively young planet or moon, especially since the people there aren't as technologically advanced as, say, the Matoran. Sure, they have hot air balloons and whatnot, but besides that, it's not the most advanced technology as things like Kanoka discs. The names of the Toa would also have to have been inspired somewhere as well. So did Makuta in the Mask of Time, and the idea of a Shadow Hunter being the perfect match for the creature known as Umarak, slightly based off of Dark Hunters. When we agree that Okoto comes after G1, the phrase fits perfectly. So does the Mask of Time, because I'm not gonna diss Vakama for his craftsmanship of creating the Mask of Time. But Chronicler, what about the fact that the masks are halves? Was it ever confirmed that they were one to begin with? Firstly, I'd insinuate that due to the drastically different designs that they would make it so they won't fit, that either masks were never meant to be one, united but not one. These masks could have been made at different times. As for Okoto, it was created at the same time Takanuva was prophesized. After all, we still don't know the time gap between Gen 1 and Gen 2. I'm guessing it took several million years since Kotorn and Toa and other MU creatures live pretty long lives. Anyways, it's proven that the Toa have some way to travel in the space, since Liwa is stuck on Boda Magna in G1, and Kopaka and Pohatu, I believe, are trapped in the Red Star. You can fact check me on that. The point is, traveling to different planets is entirely possible in Gen 1, which leads back to the Toa stars. They may not look like Mot Nui from Okoto, but hear me out on this. The positioning of stars would look vastly different from different planets, since the planets wouldn't be in the same location, therefore not seeing the same shape of the constellations. This could possibly distort the shape slightly. Okoto and Motunui have very similar shapes. Also, the distances of the Toa stars for either generation have never been confirmed, so I'm guessing the Takanuva star, being planet Okoto, could have possibly been closer than these stars, and Aqua Magna farther away. But Chronicler, why can't they see Aqua Magna then? Because Aqua Magna was pretty much destroyed except for a bit of fragment it was left. Plus, Jupiter-side planets look pretty small when you view them from far away of planets like Earth. I'm just saying, it's not too big of a stretch that Okoto and Spherus Magna could be really far away in distance, but not too far. This could explain the existence of Okoto entirely, and explain why we had the Mask of Time in one go. In short, G2 takes place after the events of G1, which is fairly obvious. Now, for the origins of the Okotans, I'll have to get back to you on that. Not all the joints are connected yet, we're just at the beginning.